Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
Okay.
Should we start with the questions that she wanted us to?
Yeah, jump into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
So, this first one, well, they're both about white privilege, but this one says, have you ever thought about this idea in this way? I think she's referring to Peggy McIntosh's article, the unpacking the. Why or why not? What do you think may have provoked you to think about it or not address it?
Just white privilege in general.
Yeah.
I think so. Or like, sort of the way you experience it on a daily basis. 'Cause that's what.
I think we just don't acknowledge it because we're on the benefiting end, the receiving
Yeah.
end. So it's not something that we get worked up about and think about often because
Because we don't have to.
Yeah, I think
we're
it's also
not losing anything from it.
I think it's also really uncomfortable to talk about like how privileged you are. Like
Yeah.
no one wants
It
to
makes
just
me
like
feel
sit
very
in guilt.
guilty.
Yeah, no one wants to be like, like there's a lot of people that like I put down just by my very existence. You know, like that's a hard thing to talk about when it's true.
And I think like we're sort of trained not to like notice it. Like I don't know, as a kid I definitely never realized like what.
Just like everyday things like looking through a magazine or whatever, like
Watching
you're
TV.
constantly seeing people that look like you, that
Yeah.
have the same color skin as you. And it was so interesting because when we were in Mexico over the summer, like I would be like walking down past all the little like shops and stuff, and all of the mannequins looked like me. And so I was wondering what
that's
it would feel
interesting.
like being a Mexican person and like walking past these mannequins and not being able to like relate to them because
see
they
yourself
don't.
in them.
Yeah, because you don't. They probably didn't see themselves.
Do you
And it was
think-
so weird because the high school that we taught at and stuff, like I was just listening to the girls like talk about how like pretty American girls were because they had, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever, and I was just like, it just made me so sad that they didn't see themselves as beautiful because they're like society puts
Because
such
we
a
set the
high.
standard of beauty or something.
Yeah.
One thing in India they have these things that are like they have face washes and face creams that over time like make your skin
Skin
whiter.
Do they have like bleach in them or something? Like how
Some kind of bleaching
Wow.
elements. And so like and then like the Bollywood stars that you see in movies are like they're like as white as me or just maybe a little tanner.
Yeah.
And like they're it was just really fascinating. Like the whole beauty industry was making people whiter, whereas like then I like came back to America and people were like going tanning. It was just like very like what are we trying to achieve? You know.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah, it was like fascinating to me for like people to bleach their skin to look like my skin. And I just was just like, don't do that. Like you're beautiful, like how you are. But it's also something that people could probably tell us too.
Yeah.
I think like things that we experience in our childhood too kind of reinforce that idea that like white is right and stuff like that because like the Barbie dolls and like the G.I. Joes and like the things we played with were all like white, handsome, perfect characters and stuff like that. So then like even like kids of color will play with those toys and think like this is what defines beauty. This Barbie is beautiful. She's white. All these characteristics and that's what
She
beautiful
has
is.
nice
Yeah.
boobs.
Like the one video of like 4-year-old girls saying which doll is prettier,
Yeah,
the white doll or
they
the
point
black
to the white
doll,
one.
and the black girls will say the white doll's prettier because
Yeah.
her skin is nice and all this sort of stuff. And they're like 4.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So I think that, you know, that kind of sheds light on how important it is, like, our powerful positions as teachers in elementary schools, like how we can change their
Well,
opinions.
that brings up the next question that's tied in with this, which is, I want you to look at ways in which you can use your privilege. We all have some sort of privilege. Power dynamics change in many ways. Teacher, student, parent, child, white, person of color, like man, woman, rich, poor, gay, straight. It's sometimes hard to face a power relationship in our daily lives, but in order to dismantle them, we must take a critical lens to them. Wow, sorry, I'm having a really hard time reading today. But did you get that?
Yeah.
Just like the power dynamics and how we can use it, especially as teachers.
And I think just being aware too of the privilege that we possess as someone with white skin, that it's like we can use that in our classrooms to sort of try and open the discussion and try and make it better. Like, we know that there's not much representation for other people, for like our students of color, so maybe try and introduce more books that look
the
like
Black
them.
and the Berry.
I can't wait to do that.
And also just like talking about in classes, like there are equal opportunities, but I guess what's an opportunity that's proportional to different people's experiences, you know, like
It's more like equity versus equality.
yeah. So like the students of who are marginalized in your classroom, like how can you lift them up more than other students, and but still like keep it kind of that's something that I was thinking about a lot through this. Just like, okay, if I know a student like growing up where we grew up, like at my elementary school, there was like I think one student who was African American.
Yeah, it's
And
very
so
limited.
It's very
The
limited.
diversity was extremely limited.
And so like, how do you make them feel like they have a place in the classroom? They don't have to be white to like be important or like have like fit in. Like, I don't know.
But also bringing to the students' attention, the students with white skin, the privilege that they have.
How do you do that?
How do you have them? Money question. How do you have your students with white skin become aware of their privilege?
And then use that privilege to help their classmates around them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like shifting responsibility to them in that sense that they are in control of, to some extent, the success of their classmates of color.
Yeah.
Like, the nicer and more willing to help and helpful they are, and, you know, could help them be more successful.
Yeah, how do you expose it in like a genuine way without
It being too much.
Yeah,
guilt
and
for students.
heaviness, sort of that like I don't know.
Because that is what's hard with talking about privilege with white adults, is that they feel guilty and suddenly it's like uncomfortable, don't want to talk
Or they
about
deny
it.
it.
Deny it,
Yeah.
shut down. Like, even my roommates sometimes do that, and it's like, we need to talk about this.
I think one thing my sister, she was telling me she majored in psychology at her university, and she was telling me about like this thing that she was researching with like anxiety, and how one thing that she was learning was instead of saying like why are you feeling anxious, like what are you feeling anxious about, instead like flipping it and being like, okay, what power do you have in this situation? Like, list the different powers that you have right now. Like, I have power to like
use that on myself.
Yeah.
I actually do that a lot. It's like, oh, like I have power to like breathe in and out. Like I have power to like open and close that door, or I have like more power to like leave the situation or different things. And so like telling kids like you can feel guilty, or you can like address the power you have, and then like see how you can use that power to like help other people. So like I have the power to like make people feel like really bad about themselves or good about themselves, like with the words that I choose.
That's a really good connection.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Also, it was just so interesting to me that, like, I never really thought about it this way, that, like, if I walk into a room full of people, the majority of the people are going to look like me. And, I don't know, just try to put myself into, like, a person of color's perspective. Like, the majority of the time, if they walk into a room full of people, there's not going to be very many people that look like them. And that's
like,
just so interesting, because that's not something that I think about. Like, I walk into a room and I'm just like,
You feel comfortable right after
yeah,
that.
exactly. So it's like to have just that thought in the back of their mind would be.
Yeah, I think that means that we should find places where we feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like
Put ourselves in that situation.
put ourselves there, because like I don't know, from my personal experience, like I really don't have to work hard to feel comfortable at Western. Like,
Exactly.
I feel like pretty comfortable in my classes and like people, and like I'll be on the bus and everything. It's like I feel comfortable with people around me. So like, how can I find places and be like, oh,
Especially with everything that happened last quarter too.
yeah, like this is like making me uncomfortable. Like, why is this making me uncomfortable? And like, what kind of like little window here, I don't know, is it into people's lives? You know.
And I think that would really benefit our students too if we have had that experience too of feeling uncomfortable, and so we can try and find ways to help, like ease that discomfort if a student feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think like one way to do it without even like confronting it directly, like if your students are really young. I don't know. I want to see what she says about the money question, but just like build your class community and like really foster it to be like inclusive and like close knit. Yeah, where everybody feels like they're part of a little team. You know?
Yeah, and then I guess with students of color in class, like building off that power discussion, like you could say like, you have the power to like tell us about your culture. Like you have the power to like speak your language if you want to, which is like might get them more.
Yeah, there's readings for Joy's other class that I'm in. That's have you guys taken? No.
433.
The ELL class.
Yeah, 433.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the Funds of Knowledge project?
Yeah.
But then like reading about like linguistic capital or like social
Or capitals you have.
Yeah,
Funds of Knowledge
especially
is super
like
interesting.
culturally
Yeah.
diverse students. And so that's like, I think if you're looking at what kids bring into the classroom as like positives, you know,
Mhm.
like
Funds of knowledge are like what cultural like traditions or values or like activities like do you and your family share. So like when like you have funds of knowledge coming into class, like you have a different funds of knowledge, just so that you know what we're doing.
and some students from backgrounds that aren't mainstream have more funds of knowledge than we do because they've had to
Like they
know
have
their
a strong
language.
background in agriculture and they
Yeah.
can share all about that.
or like there's another one they talked about that's like resistant capital, and it's like sort of the strength you have and the knowledge you gain as a person by going through those experiences and learning to resist them. Like the system.
So what were your readings this week, y'all?
I'll be the first to admit I'm not a fan of poetry usually.
Oh yeah.
Like it's hard for me to understand, and I'm just like, I want to understand. I don't like this because like in high school you had to do the deep analysis.
Where it can be
Yeah.
almost like open ended and
Mhm.
has
That's
different
like you could have liked
interpretations.
poetry before high school and the deep analysis.
Yeah, and then but I liked these books a lot
Mm-hmm.
because it was on
Like
their
the seaweed.
experiences. The seaweed ones, like about
The
her,
secrets of seaweed.
and then the
Because they kind of have
blackberry.
like topics. Yeah,
Mhm.
they weren't just figure this poem out.
I felt like, and they were topics that I feel like a majority of people could relate
Like two, and they provide different experiences outside what is mainstream.
I really
Yeah.
like just the
Society.
perspective that you gain from reading both. Like
Mhm.
one with being like the mixed, Asian background, and the other one being mixed with like a black background, and just the perspective that.
And the fact that Black or the Berry focused on all sorts of different skin
Mhm.
tones and saying that they're beautiful just like this.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful book.
Yeah, and I loved that the illustrations were so detailed on each person that you could like really see like their individualism. It was
They looked like such real people. I was
Yeah.
like, was he looking at real children? I'm
yeah, like
It was
like did he take a
cool, it also
picture of
had
the
a
person
story.
and
Yeah.
then like paint it?
I know. Like wow.
I like the
Yeah.
reoccurring theme of like the berries though too.
How
Like,
they related it to the
how
fruit,
how
and
like,
the earth
each
and
one
their
had like a
families.
different berry that they like could identify with.
like your fruit trees.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
yeah. Sorry.
No, it's true. No, I was actually reading that and I was like relating it to
You're right.
Did I talk about that already with all of you?
I don't know.
I think it was just like a small group
Yeah.
before we got started.
Oh, okay. I'm just like for our writing class or writing a personal narrative, mine was about like how my family we planted fruit trees for like each kid in our family in their backyard. And so like just about like growing up with those trees and making the jam out of the fruit and like how identifying with my plums.
I think that The Black or the Berry is definitely a book that
I would
Going
want
to
to my
include
class.
it in my class.
Yeah, I was like, I need to buy this.
and just reading like
Yeah, I
on
thought
the little back
that
page
was
about the
good.
authors and stuff too is really cool. I'd like to look into them a little more.
Yeah, I actually the
Like they weren't
writer
white authors.
Lawrence Turner, I'm pretty sure there was like I don't think this was his original book. He wrote another book, and he was part of the Harlem Renaissance, the 1920s and 1930s.
Oh, really?
And he was like one of the like this big African American like activist through
Very
British.
cool.
So I was like, it's like, okay, like last week I didn't look at any of the authors.
And now it's
Maybe
time.
I should
But now
look
that's
at
something that's like you're thinking about.
Mhm.
Which is
And he like, I mean, who better to write about that experience than like
someone
somebody
who's
like,
gone through it.
And wasn't like a activist for it, not just somebody who has an interest in it.
yeah.
Mhm.
I was a little bit like, what if I look up Lawrence Turner and he's like some like very light
Yeah.
man.
Because I feel like that
That'd be
changed the story too.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you love the skin you're in, but then this person is from a privileged point of view with their
Mhm.
skin color. So it's like,
Yeah.
Well, of course you love yours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you're telling other people too, because you receive privileges based on the color of your skin that other people don't.
Have you guys ever taken an IAT test?
What not?
It's like an implicit bias test.
Mhm.
You should. I can maybe post the link on our discussion group, but it's there are ones for like race and ones for skin color, ones for
Gender.
gender and sexuality and like gender and career and all these different things. And you like, it's like it's a psychology test to see like where your biases lie. It was
Wow. I
really-
would
Yeah,
love
really
it. Yeah, I
interesting.
think could find that link.
Yeah.
It, like, yeah, it highlights your preference towards something. So like
That's
pictures
so
of
scary.
like pictures of eyes will show up, and then you have to guess if they're like dark skinned or light
Oh,
skinned.
okay.
And then like negative and positive words would show up on the screen, and you have to categorize them
And then they switch.
the same way. Then they switch backwards, and then it's based on your reaction time.
Oh.
What
Yeah,
about the
so
rating?
I had a slight preference for people of lighter skin, like 5% above
Yeah.
midway through.
I was surprised by mine. I was like moderately prefers like African Americans, and I was like, I did not expect that. Like honestly, I thought it was gonna be like equal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
But then it was interesting. I took that like for the race one, but then the skin color, it was I slightly prefer like white over African American.
On the gender one, it was on the female side for me. Like apparently, I categorized the females quicker, so I didn't expect that either. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think that I was just thinking about like how do you think about your privilege? How do you think about like where those lines? So this test was actually really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Like we all have biases, and it's
Right.
like
Even
aware.
against like our own. I
Yeah.
don't know.
What about the reading seeing color, where it talked about like being colorblind? And
Oh,
then,
I
like,
was gonna bring that up.
yeah, but I really thought it was interesting because it totally put a different perspective on it for me when it said like, when you say you don't see color, you say you don't see children.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's such a like.
it's
To say that you're like colorblind too, and that you don't see color, then that means like you're avoiding the problems.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
really
Yeah,
And
it's
then you
like,
can
oh,
address-
it doesn't exist.
This, but it does exist.
like just
but
pushing
it's
it
like,
aside.
Yeah. So slavery that never existed.
Yeah.
Like,
if you don't see color, then you don't see other people's struggle.
Yeah,
Like,
I
yeah.
see where they're coming from. I feel like they're saying like, oh, I don't see color. Like I see every child.
Yeah, they're trying to take like a
Equally,
moral high ground by saying that,
Exactly.
oh, I'm not racist, you're all just kids to me, I don't see your color.
Yeah,
but
which I
you can't
totally
do
see
that
where they're
anymore.
coming from,
You
but
need to
then it's
acknowledge
like
it.
the author totally brought a different perspective.
Yeah.
For me, at least, like when it comes to
I think it's I think it's a really, really
Acknowledging.
common perspective, especially for probably people in like our parents' generations, like older than us.
Yeah.
I mean,
My
ours
parents,
too.
I've
But
heard my parents say that.
yeah, same.
Like-
Like
I don't see color. I'm like, well,
that was my dad's
throughout
whole
history, they have been seen by their color, and you can't undo that by
Yeah.
like amazingly putting on these glasses where you don't see anyone's color.
Yeah.
Like you do see
You
people's
do.
color.
yeah,
You just if
And,
you
like,
don't,
if
you're not
you're-
seeing their struggle.
thing. And you can't see your
it
own
defines where
bias.
they've come from. It
Yeah.
defines who they are. You know,
Right.
It's like, just totally opened up my eyes. That little reading did, I think.
Yeah.
I read the piece about Native Americans in literature.
Oh yeah.
And like the
Yeah.
illustrations and like text involved and different things, and that was really interesting. There's some that I was like, well, obviously that's really bad, and there are other ones that I was like,
That wouldn't have stood
like I
out
wouldn't
to
have
me.
that to me.
Yeah.
Like one of them was just like you should have people having like diverse roles in society, and like this woman was like cooking, like this Native American woman was like cooking and like doing all these different things around the camp instead of just like I don't know. Only sitting around campfires. I feel like that's what like all the books for me, like growing up, were like Native Americans just have,
sit around campfires
Yeah.
and do all that.
it's like they
Yeah,
had
they dance
like
a lot.
they dance a lot and they have like they have
Or like
polishes.
all the artwork is the same, like all the prints and stuff
Yeah.
are really basic. Like I think especially the focus on how diverse like American Indians are as like a group and all the groups within that.
That was what my reading focused on too. Was like, I felt like a way to kind of like here's some guidelines for picking Native American literature.
Yeah,
it is so diverse, and you need different experiences and different.
And that's why I think it'll be hard for us to kind of build our library in our classroom with that Native American literature for kids because like
there's so many that don't.
I don't know about you guys, but like in elementary school, I didn't really get a deep Native American. So like I basically going into that subject blind. Like I know about local tribes, like the Makah tribes.
I think that's a great way to do it though, is focus on the local tribes, like that history that's there, because that's stuff that students can relate to because
like they're all important, but that's the most relatable. Like when you talk about like burning out the cedar trees and like having like the potlatches or whatever, like that's gonna be a lot more relatable to them. Like I don't know.
Like if a kid in California is learning about a tribe from Washington, they're probably not going to be able to relate to it as much because they don't have the same trees as we do. They don't,
they can't, like,
just different resources and stuff. Yeah.
I was surprised, sort of that. Or have you guys ever read anything by Sherman Alexie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. That's a good author too.
What does he write about?
He writes about his experiences growing up as like an American Indian. He's from around here, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I read his stuff like a while ago,
but
it's like it's for kids. It's like
so like
would he be a source that you would include in your classroom?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been a while, so I don't really remember exactly what age he's in. Yeah, but definitely worth checking out.
My a little reading that I did was called Not for Sport, and it was talking about including Indian like mascots and logos and whatnot into like sports teams. And the article was really interesting because it had all these subheadings that I assume were from people that weren't of Native American background.
Oh, like the arguments and the counter arguments.
Yeah, like defending why they thought that having these like, mascots and logos was like respecting these Native Americans, but the Native Americans are like, actually no, like when you
here's
use
why you're
these, like, exactly.
That's such a weird thing to say though. Like this is how we're respecting you.
Yeah,
it's like why don't you ask me? I'm feeling respected by this.
And like for the Native Americans, a lot of times like they saw like when they were using like objects like let's say like drums or like eagle feathers or whatever. Yeah. They see that as mockery because for them, those are things that they use in like sacred rituals and traditional like dances and how however they celebrate their culture. And it's like for them, these like sports teams are almost like making a mockery out of like their culture, and they're not respected by it. And by us continuing to like use these mascots and logos, it's actually like really disrespecting them. And they're clearly explaining the reasons why they don't. That they feel disrespected, and it is racist and not to imitate.
Go ahead.
We hold sports so sacred in our culture too, especially like the freaking NFL. Like I like watching football and stuff too, but it's like the Redskins. Like, come on, like that is like as blatant as it could get.
To be honest, if my team had like something like that, I would want them to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, but
it
people
said that
are
too.
So stuck in their ways
like,
and so like hold sports in such like high regard.
Like you shouldn't hold sports higher than people.
Exactly. I was saying that they were taking like their culture and putting it to another man's game.
That's what I was going to say. That's the part about the article that I really enjoyed reading because I never thought of it that way. Because for some reason, I guess I was brainwashed to thinking that it was kind of like a nice little tribute, aside from the actual Redskins name, but like colleges called like the Florida State Seminoles and things like that.
Yeah, Florida State's got to change it.
Yeah, I didn't find that immediately, like this is the white privilege, I didn't find that immediately like racist or degrading because I thought it was, but after reading this article, it completely changed my opinion, and I see it now from like, where those are sacred things to them, like Chiefs and Braves and those things, and then we're just like, we put it in like a game that amuses us. Like, it's degrading. It really is, and I get that now.
I really hate when my team plays Florida State, especially at their home turf, because in the middle of their basketball court is the mascot just imprinted on it, and it's just how is this
Yeah.
okay? That's not okay. So I always am like, let's beat them every time. So then we'll
Yeah.
change it, you know.
And then the part in the article too where she was like,
That's how it works.
I know.
Every
she
time.
kind of like gives us the pass where she's like, okay, I get it that you thought you were doing the right thing. I get that, thank you. But after we brought it to your attention that it wasn't the right thing, you kept doing
You're
it.
still
Yeah.
continuing.
Now,
Now it's
you're
just
doing it on purpose.
blatantly,
After,
yeah.
at first you can say it was on accident, but after we brought it up and you're still
Still
keeping
saying
these
it.
teams, now you're doing it on purpose and you're trying to
Yeah.
degrade us.
What do you guys
It's
think
totally true.
of mascots like ours, for example, like the Vikings, or
I was thinking
other
about that
people
after
groups like
reading
my
this. I was
elementary
like,
schools, the Spartans, like
yeah, I was thinking about that.
I guess for me, like I'm not offended by a Viking, but maybe there are people who are offended by Vikings. I don't really know.
I guess I just don't know enough about Vikings and what they
Yeah.
did.
I think that's
whatever,
because
that
it's
I
like the relevancy that like Vikings and Spartans aren't part
Relevant.
of current history anymore. They're like,
And there's
Things from the
people
past.
who are descended from Vikings. And
yeah, like I have
all
a
that, but
huge
it's
story
really
history,
not.
but I don't find it offensive that they're like mocking my history. I'm
It's,
like,
it's
just like not people that like
at that point it really is
Yeah.
just a
genocide of our
mascot. You know what I
hands.
mean?
Yeah, I heard someone say like, oh yeah, like Vikings, like they like pillaged and did
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah, they did
like,
a lot
They
of
did,
bad
but
things,
and like
but-
we don't want to be represented like that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I feel like the Vikings have been so far removed. Like
Yeah.
Vikings was a long.
But there also
time ago, there's
were
nobody
Vikings
still-
that didn't.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
though that's
Yeah.
what I said to that my friend. I was like, well, then aren't we just like I don't know? They were a civilization too. Like they had like
Yeah.
They weren't all doing that.
They're being categorized
not one that we
as
conquered.
killers and rapists because of like
Yeah,
the typical stories about Vikings, but they
That's-
weren't all like that.
that's a little bit more fun to write about, like those like extreme events than
Mhm.
like one time they like passed a law.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Yeah.
not very.
They actually
great.
had a really good sense of community and self-government.
Our irrigation was on point.
Yeah.
They actually think had a really interesting culture. I wanna
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
about it.
And then like I've heard some people argue for like we should only have like mascots that are animals, like because people can't be like offended by that. But just like I also
No, people.
I
If,
don't know. I don't know
The
where you
thing
draw the
is-
line.
like with this too, is it's like not even historically accurate. Like I heard someone say with Vikings, like they don't even have the
They
horns
don't,
on their
yeah.
helmets,
They
and we
never
have
hold
horns
their
on our
helmets.
helmets. So it's like, are we even a Viking or are we just
We're
like
the
a symbol?
Americanized
Viking?
model of a Viking.
Maybe it's just problematic to have people groups represent like
And I get like why they choose those things because they're like fierce, you know, and like because we have competitive sports here where we play other teams, you know, so like a Viking is like strong, it goes headfirst into battle, you know what I mean? Like so you get behind like Viking
Kinda
chants
has
and the
that
mascot
stigma.
is like
Yeah.
it's macho and whatnot, and I get that. Like
yeah.
but that's where it's hard. Like for sports, like that's why I never considered that it was degrading.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was sports. Like for us, like white people, sports is just
It's just
not really
sports.
something
Yeah.
that meant to. Like I didn't look into it. It's just a sport. You know what I mean?
But then also, I guess then like if we're arguing for Vikings, like we also have to see the argument for the other side too. Like why Vikings? Like why not be something different?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Someone said
Like,
that we
I'm
were
not
gonna
too
be, like,
connected to
first.
the Vikings anyways. Like if they
Yeah,
changed
same.
it,
I'm
I'd be like, well, okay.
It's not the reason I picked this school. I want to be a Viking
Like
so
I was
bad.
saying to my roommates that if someone, because if they change it, it would mean like more money coming from us. I said if someone wants to come in and say they want to change the mascot and offer to pay for everything to change it, then by all means go for it.
Yeah, it's actually really
By all
expensive
means,
to change
yeah,
it.
it's really expensive. So if it's not coming from students, if someone comes in and says I will pay 100% of it because I don't want you to be the Viking anymore, I want this, then by all means go ahead.
Do you think that's why
Otherwise,
other
fine.
sports teams don't change?
It might be, but
Too
at the
much
same time,
merchandise.
Yeah,
too
marketing.
many. Yeah,
Yeah.
Upset fans.
they're already ingrained. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
alumni.
Mhm.
I think
But
that
it's
too,
not a
like
good
I'm not-
excuse for
Yeah.
NFL. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is their excuse.
Yeah, no,
It's
no,
like
no,
it's
no,
too late
yeah.
now. We got too many like players in the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame for being
Did you
famous
see our
race
Viking
kids.
bobbleheads?
I like
You can
them,
put it
right?
back.
Yeah, like look at all these sweatshirts we've sold. They're just gonna throw these away.
Yeah, I think that too. Like, I wonder, like, as a person of color, like how I would feel about like a Viking mascot. I don't know. Like, can I identify with that at all?
Yeah, that's a really good
Like,
point.
I can identify with.
Well, because Vikings were white people killing other white people
Yeah.
too. So there's that. There's no color barrier. It's white on white.
But do you want to be represented by somebody who looks like people who, you know what?
Yeah,
You get
that's why I guess like
Yeah,
I
that's a good
was
point.
hearing the argument for like animals, like none of us could be like, yeah, I really like resonate with Bobcat, you know. But
Yeah,
like
it's my spirit animal.
but
So we have about 15 minutes until our hour is up.
okay.
Okay.
Just thinking maybe we could.
Yeah, let's see.
So the-
Any more money questions anybody was thinking about?
Like a money question about the mascot.
So I'm like, how can it change? Because they use marketing as saying like, oh, we can't change our mascot because of all this. So where is the line to where they'll actually change it? Because it's been brought up for like the Redskins.
Yeah.
Has that been something that
I think
people are like stood up to, or like
There's been multiple petitions to change the name for the
Okay.
team, and it doesn't pass.
probably
Well,
think
because
about how much
the
money
owner
sports
has the last say, right?
have.
So it's
So
the owner of the Washington Redskins. I don't know who he is, but he's the one who has the last say, and he just
Really?
doesn't want to change it.
And I don't think that they would have like that big of a loss of money because people will still support their team because that's their team. It will just be under a different mascot.
Of course, people still support their team. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna. It's so
Like that's still
stupid.
your team.
It's like there's got to be a way the NFL could figure out how to make money off that switch. You know, like
Oh,
like
they've
all
done
their
it
fans have to
multiple
buy
times
new
before, too.
jerseys.
It's-
And the
There's
thing
all
is too,
those,
like
there's all those T-shirts and stuff to be vintage.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the price was jacked up. Boom.
Boom. Got it.
Problem solved.
But they've done it multiple times before, where they've relocated a team and gave them a new name,
Yeah.
and it wasn't based off like anybody saying they should do it. They just did it for profit.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
But now they can't do it. I think it's just because they're just being stubborn. They're like, no, we don't want to do it. This is our team. Deal with
Turn
it.
their nose up to
And the
it.
fact that it's our team from our nation's capital too
Oh, it's like
is just another little
kind
like,
of perfect.
oh my god. Like, our team from Washington D.C. is called the Redskins.
So okay, I'm
Right,
trying to
that-
think of
so
how to
that's-
phrase that money
I
question
think
when I have to
My
write
money
it
question
on
would
the-
be like, yeah, how do you like?
What do we do if somebody finds something offensive that we never found offensive, like the Vikings mascot?
Like, how do we start the conversation about that and implement change?
Okay.
Well,
God.
did you guys watch the video of the guy who did like his spoken like poetry?
Spoken word.
Asian American
Yeah.
stories?
Yes.
That was really
That was powerful. Like,
Yeah.
I started
He was
honestly. I
good.
started tearing up when
Yeah,
I
I
was
love
watching
I love
that.
spoken word too. When they say it, and just leave.
And they're just
Yes.
so passionate.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And he's like, I
Drop the
feel.
mic.
Boom.
Boom,
That
out,
was
done.
sweet,
I was
yeah.
like, I don't know. That was just really powerful for me.
I like the microaggressions happening to white people.
Especially because I have a friend that I totally like put in his shoes as he was saying
Mhm.
that, and just like things that I've said to that friend like jokingly,
Yeah, that like already
That
shows.
never realized were actually like really hurtful and
Oh.
really offensive.
And like they
Yeah.
don't have a place where they can be like, actually, that's kind of like, can you not say that to me?
Yeah.
Like they just like they're just like, no, like it's just funny. I
Yeah.
guess. Like I don't get
Like
it.
shake it off, laugh about it, but it's like no, like that. Those words really hurt. And,
It's like the microaggressions.
yeah.
In my where I work, it's the restaurant industry, and a lot of like stuff like racism and sexism just like really lays bare. I don't know in the food like restaurant work, but yeah, I have a Chinese coworker who's like he's not like an immigrant. Like I think his great grandparents came here, so you know, like,
Mhm.
but he gets shit for it all the time. It's like you can be somehow it's socially acceptable there to be like literally racist to
And say like, oh, where are you really?
like my
from?
boss,
Like,
our
yeah.
boss, like it's just like
It's so annoying.
it blows my mind, and I don't know how to. I mean, I feel like it's not my place to be like, whoa, like, is that appropriate? You know, like, I don't know if it is, and I have had a hard time with that because it'll be something that totally, I don't know, it would affect me if I were him.
Yeah.
Big time.
I feel like for me, I'm like I want to be like stand up and say that, but it's like it's so
It's
hard
so
being like
hard.
not the person that's in that position.
And to
you
say
know?
it to your boss, too.
Yeah.
It's
Where there's
like-
already-
Probably be
a power
fired if he
dynamic.
raises a stink about it. They'll
Yeah,
just
that
fire
goes
him.
with the whole power dynamic.
I think maybe a way to say that though, you could be like, you could bring it up with your boss, like, you know, this guy like said something, like maybe not say like you said this something to him, but you could be like, a customer said this to him, and I noticed that he was like upset about it,
Yeah.
so like I went like, I don't know, you could, instead of like directly attacking him.
Yeah, try and like present him with a situation that would maybe
Open his mind a little bit.
yeah, or just cause him to reflect on it.
Yeah. Or the video where they're like jogging and they meet up and he's
Yes,
like,
that
hey,
one.
like where are you from? And she's like, LA or whatever.
like, where
and
you
he's
really
where
from?
are you really from? And then he's like, oh, whatever he said.
I love
and
such
then
a
and then she's
good-
like, her reaction at the end was
so
stop with the
funny.
morning too.
So
Yeah, and like,
I'm so funny. It was really good.
yeah, that was great. What other readings? and
Maybe
stuff
that's a
do you
good money question too.
Yeah.
How do you handle that situation?
So
Or like
that-
other power dynamics at
Sometimes.
play.
Yeah, or like, what if you're working
Whose
in a
place
school
is
and
it?
like your principal or like administrators are like racist,
Yeah.
like, or don't like have like equal opportunities for students, or don't like I don't know, acknowledge that that's important. Like, how do you as a teacher?
Well, and kids coming into the classroom too with racist comments that they hear at home all the time, and then we can't necessarily control what happens at home for them. Like that's not our place.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like we can control them in the classroom and what they say, but we can't necessarily completely change their mind because they go home
Yeah.
and just revert back to their
We can't
Parents
even
would
control
Or they
what
try
say in
and
the classroom. We just can
say
talk
what they've
about it.
learned
Yeah.
at home and then get reprimanded.
And so I think that strategy that you just mentioned for her to use, I think could also be used with kids, like giving them a scenario that makes them see it differently without
Putting it
directly
on them.
putting the blame on them, saying this is what you were doing, you're a bad
Yeah.
person,
I've
you're
done
a
that.
bad
I've done
kid.
that sometimes with my parents
Really?
because like I have a little brother and sister, and there'll be sometimes things that they do that I recognize. I'm like, I don't know, mom and dad, that was a good decision. So then I'll like present it in like a different way.
It's like, I'm not telling you you're wrong.
But I remember I was thinking about that with like administrators. So I remember my friend, you know Faiza Ahmad?
I don't.
She went to like Glacier Peak, but she was in my grade. And she was telling me that like in middle school, when she came to middle school, because of her name, they like automatically put her in like an ELL class,
Oh my god.
Really?
which is like not.
That's not cool.
It's not cool, but it's also not like super rare either.
Yeah, it's not common.
Like I can't pronounce your name. That means you probably don't speak English.
Like in our
what?
other class where we talked about, especially how teachers, like, if they can't pronounce the name, like, the child's name is Jorge, and then they automatically start calling him George. Like, no, that's not the name that the parents gave him at birth. Like,
Yeah,
that's
Like, you can
super
figure out how to.
disrespectful.
You can
like,
figure out how to
pronounce
pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a teacher. Like, you juggle
And
yeah,
if the name
and
is, if the
go to
name
the
is too
bathroom
hard,
and teach
think
your
of
child
it
how to say
It's
it.
like his name was Jorge.
upset too.
What?
I said if the name is really too hard to pronounce, like because some of those names are pretty like long and hard to pronounce, especially like Asian American names. So I've sometimes like just a quick little nickname that both parties agree on too is a quick instead of like
Like almost
pronouncing it wrong on purpose because it's easier to remember. Like just think of a cool little nickname or something.
And ask, or
Yeah,
ask
that
them
they
like, what
like,
would you
so-
like to
To
be
be
called?
called.
What do your
Yeah.
friends call you, or what?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Because most of the time they do have a shortened version.
Yeah, that happened in Mexico when we were teaching. Remember, like one of the little kindergartners, I like had asked him, I was like, "What's your name?" And he was like, he told me his name was John, and I was like, "Your name is not John." I don't think so. His name is definitely Juan. And he like didn't want to. He was like, "I don't know how to."
It's
I
like
don't
so
know.
That's wrong.
like,
That's
you
not-
even
that's
think
not
to
too
like
hard.
change it for you. It's
Like,
like easier for you. It's like
It's like you don't have to
Wow.
do me a favor.
yeah. It's
Like
like
that's not your job. Like you have enough hardships in
To
your life.
worry about. Then
I could call you Lauren.
yeah,
It's like
It's not
my
hard.
name. It's funny. I was just still stuck on like thinking about your like presenting a situation, and I was thinking like it's such like a feminine way to go about something, like,
It's true.
because we're so used to making it seem like it was their idea. You know, like that's how you get somebody to do something for you. Is you gotta like put it in there.
passive way of doing it.
Yeah, indirect, and I think it's like something you learn over time from like
Should
those
you
power
check your
dynamics.
battery?
I did. We're okay.
Let's see. Did you guys watch any of the other videos, like the Macklemore song?
Yeah, I watched
or
it. I
the
read it.
I
Tracy
thought
Chapman
the
song?
I thought Tracy Chapman.
I love
song-
Tracy
Yeah,
Chapman.
like Fast Car is one of my favorite songs.
I didn't know that's what Tracy Chapman looked like.
At first I didn't
No
read
idea.
who the song was by, and at first I thought that
Like I
was a man.
recognize the voice.
I thought
yeah.
like her voice is just really like deep. I thought it was in it. It said Tracy. I was like, wait, this is a
Wait,
girl?
what?
And it just completely changed the dynamic of the entire, I like re-listened to the song, I was like,
Whoa.
okay.
My
Totally
friends and I
thought
have
it was
this joke that's like maybe not super whatever, but it's like, you know the thing that's like, where were you on 9/11? That's like it's just like a thing, but like
yeah, or like where were you?
like because you remember it, right? Because
Oh,
it was
okay.
a big
Yeah.
it was a big event. But it's like, where were you when you found out Tracy Chapman was a woman?
It's
kind of
surprising.
terrible, but I remember it. Like I was in the car with my mom, listening to Fast Car, and like we were talking about it, she's like, yeah, no, this is a woman singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just has like a really deep,
What?
I want to guess she's Jamaican. She seems like,
no.
I don't know.
I think she, I don't know, because in my experience, the Jamaican like accent is very deep and
It's like the Asian accent, like
I don't know. Like when I was in choir, I'm like an alto too, but like I'm
way low?
I have a very low singing voice. So I was like Tracy, my
You're staying in your very low singing.
No, that's okay.
Like if ever you just want to include a little snippet for Joy,
Yeah.
we'd be okay with it.
I think that's music like Tracy Chapman that speaks to like I don't know, her experiences socially and her like just understanding of the world, but that might be a good way to bridge like poetry in your classroom, like bridge to
Yeah. And it's like listening, like reading a Bob Dylan song as a poem, and then listening to the song and being like, wow, like music is poetry.
yeah.
Was there any other readings that
I mean, it wasn't the reading, but like the video
Just-
that's like, I think it was from MTV about like microaggressions happening to white people.
Yeah.
Because I like that because I think it's it might be an easier way to get some of my friends who don't fully understand white privilege to
Yeah.
look at what they say and, you know, the, what do they, you know, the,
maybe.
Yeah.
For sure.
How do you and your people feel about this? Like,
yeah, like,
And one thing that really struck me is asking somebody of color to speak for like
the whole.
and I think that's something that we do a lot without noticing, or maybe that I've done personally, probably. Like
Yeah.
it's like ask my black friend how like black people feel about this in general. You know, it's like that's.
Yeah, like they have
Different
the corner and
opinions,
how everyone
yeah.
would feel.
And I think it's a good thing to keep in mind as a teacher too, because you don't want
You
to
have
ever do that to a
one
child in your
Asian
classroom.
student in your classroom
Yeah.
and you think that they're speaking for the entire
Yeah.
culture. Good point.
Cool.
Well, I think that was a good discussion.
Cool.
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, we have our money questions at like 6:30.
Yeah, something like that.
I will write.
And like
Let's do
45, I think.
Yeah,
was our last one.
What was our last one?
No,
Oh, yeah, I
That was
remember,
like,
I
oh,
remember.
there's like about 45 or something like that.
Okay.
15 minutes.
Woo!
Bye, Joy.
Just looking down my shirt.